to the Grief Cafe. My name is Mweni Wambua, and I'm your host as we have this fireside conversation about grief. Grief tends to be one of those things that everyone knows about it, but we don't really know about it until it happens to you, and then you begin to realize how strange and awkward and intense a place grief can be. But I ran ahead of myself. Who am I? I do three things in this life. I am an authenticity coach, a grief therapist, and a pastor. What does that all mean? It means that I help people navigate the changes and challenges of life in a manner that protects their dignity, is true to who they are, and reconnects them back to God. And the reason why I believe that reconnection back to God is an important thing when we go through our grief journey is because grief does impact our belief. Our spiritual life is impacted by grief in ways that cannot be described, and yet in ways that are extremely life-changing. We either lose our faith in the journey of grief, or our faith grows, or sometimes we just become numb and we question about the goodness of God, the presence of God, the reality of God, and the evidence of God. Because why would God allow difficult things to happen when we are to his children and to life in general? And that's a difficult conversation, but that's not our conversation today. Today I want us to talk about a statement that is said pretty often. And you know, one of the things that happens with statements that are said often, because they are so familiar, we tend to think they're cliche. We don't even begin to pause and wonder, is there a truth in there? And so today's statement that I want us to unpack is, it is okay to not be okay. What does that really mean? What does it mean to say that it is okay to not be okay? And so today we will be looking at different ways. I will actually be helping you see the different ways in which you navigate the space from I'm not okay, I am okay, to I am getting okay. Remember, you don't get over grief, because grief is not a task to be completed. You don't finish grief. It's not our job to be done. You learn to live with grief, because the reality of grief is that once grief touches your life, you live with it every day for the rest of your life. How do you forget a loved one who has passed on? How do you forget a house that you had put years in and now it has been taken away from you, whether it is by destruction by the vagaries of the weather, or it is a repossession by the bank, or it is a demolition by the government, or it has been broken into and burnt down. Whatever reason you lose that house, how do you forget that? In fact, psychology tells us that the only way to forget is if you have an injury at the back of your head here, which then affects your capacity to remember. Obviously, that's not my recommendation. Obviously, I am not saying that the way to learn to live this journey is by causing injuries. No. But the truth is, we need to learn how to navigate the journey of grief. And so I'll give us a way, a framework, as it were, or at least a few pillars that will help us in knowing what the journey looks like and how to navigate the journey, how to lean in on what needs to be leaned in on, and how to be authentic even in our journey. Number one thing that happens to you when you go through grief is that love goes out through the window. You completely feel unloved. You feel unloved by God. You feel unlovable by the people around you. I mean, somehow when we go through grief, whatever loss that we are whatever loss that we are navigating, love somehow seems to be the first thing that we crave and hunger for. And yet love seems to be the one thing that is scarce. I know it may sound cliche, but there is a healing power in love. Grief can be a time to receive love from those around us. Grief can be a time to see love in a different way from the people around us. Grief can also be a time when we realize how different the way in which we define love. Define love, identify it, even accept it from the different places. So the first thing that we do in this journey is love. What is love? How am I receiving love? Where can I get love, the love that I want? Who is giving me the love that I want? But remember, because grief is not about me receiving and getting and giving, me receiving and getting and holding, it can also be about me giving. So one of the ways in which we can learn how to love is receive and give it. So for instance, I may be going through my own grief journey, but sometimes I'm not the only one. So you may find someone else in my circle is also going through the grief journey. One of the realities about love is that love is about vulnerability. And that is why the efficiency of even what we call support groups. So when we sit together and I have my story, you have your story, I bring my vulnerability to the table, you bring your vulnerability to the table, we will connect and we will experience such a fullness and abundance of love in that space that will make me know that I am not alone, that will make me know that I am not isolated, that will make me know that in this journey that I am on, I can relate to the people around you. So loving and love is the first letter. The second letter is identity. Grief has a way of shattering our identity. Think about someone who loses a job. I was the MD of company XYZ. I was the Secretary General of organization XYZ. I was the wife of so-and-so. I was the husband of so-and-so. I am the daughter of so-and-so. So when so-and-so dies, or when organization so-and-so, this and that closes down, who am I? Outside of the identity that I had created for myself within the circumstances that I existed, who am I outside of that identity? And so the journey of grief and the journey of moving from it's okay to not be okay includes being able to tackle the issue of identity. Who am I becoming in this journey? Who do I want to become in this journey? What have I lost in this journey? Is my loss defining me? Those are conversations that will impact your identity and will begin to shape the view of yourself that you have. It is okay for you to recreate a new identity. It is okay for you to realize that that old identity is gone and behold, a new one has come. And even though I did not have an opinion on whether I accept it or not, it is here. And the resistance to this new identity is what is going to hold me back from being able to move forward in my recovery journey. Some losses even cause a change of name. One of the most difficult losses I've had people talk about and clients talk about is the loss of a spouse. The loss of a spouse gives you a new name. It gives you the name widow or it gives you the name widower. That completely changes everything. It is an unwanted name for many. It is an undesirable name for others. It makes me stick out like a sore thumb. And so nobody wants to be called that every other day. And you know that unfortunate thing is that there is no notice. Immediately your spouse dies, your title has changed. Your identity has changed. And so one of the things that we need to begin to do in our recovery journey is to begin to ask ourselves, in what ways has my identity changed? The third thing that helps shape our journey as we move forward is the values. What values am I carrying with me in this journey? What values are going to hold me in this journey? What values did the person that I lost, what values did this thing that I lost symbolize in my life? Values are what guides us. Values are what protects us. Values tend to put a hedge around us. And that's a place of deciding, you know what, even in this place, this I will not do. This I will do. This is how I will go. These are the things that are precious to me. These are the things that hold me. These are the things that keep me anchored. And so what values are you going to carry through in your grief journey? And when we talk of values, we tend to think about the louder ones that we tend to see on corporate walls. They adorn corporate walls in nicely framed things. But you know what? While those are good for the corporates, guess what they do for the corporates and what they should do for us as individuals? They teach us how to operate. They teach us how far we should go. They teach us what to do, what not to do. They guide us. They provide a hedge within which you know, beyond this I will not do. Beyond this I will not go. And so our values become very relevant when we are going through a season of loss. Another reality when we are going through a season of loss and in the place of working towards becoming okay is learning to live with inconclusion. Inconclusion is not something that is very popular, especially in this generation, because we are a generation that we always know stuff. You can Google it. Google is always your friend. There's someone who knows about it. There's a book around about it. There's an article around it. There's a program around it. There's always something that feeds us with the information that we need. Indeed, one company has a slogan that says, in the information age, the age of the information matters. And so we begin to see that we are a people that are so consumed with knowledge, and understanding is not really what we are pursuing. We just want knowledge. But did you know that grief is one of those things that leaves us with questions? There are certain losses that we will never know the answers. We will never know how. We will never know to the letter and be able to say, aha, now that makes sense. And that's hard to live with. One of the grief that comes to mind when I think about the inconclusion of it all is where a loved one has died by suicide. We are left with so many questions. Why did they do it? How did they do it? What could we have done? Should we have done more? Should we have done this? There's so many questions. And even in many other griefs, there's always questions. Truth is, there's never a time when someone will wake up and say, I am ready to lose my phone today. I am ready for my favorite car to have an accident. I am ready for my only car to have an accident. I am ready for my house to burn down. Nobody makes such decisions consciously. Nobody makes such decisions, for the most part, intentionally. But life does happen. And so what is the conclusion that we must learn to live with? That we don't know. I don't know why they did it. I don't know why they told that lie. I don't know why he cheated. I don't know why she cheated. I don't know why they sold me land that was not theirs. I don't know why they allowed me, they conned me. I don't know why I invested money into an organization that went down. I don't know. The place of saying I don't know. The place of saying I don't understand. The place of saying I did not know enough is a very difficult place. It's also a very humbling place, because we will bang our heads against the wall, wishing we had known better, wishing we had done better, wishing we had asked more questions. But like they say, wishes are not horses, and therefore we are stuck with it. We are stuck with the reality that the loss has happened. So how do we learn to live with the inconclusion? It is okay to be able to say, I don't know. I actually don't know what happened. I don't know why this happened. Now remember that the place of saying I don't know is not the place of not taking responsibility for issues. There's only so much that we can take responsibility for. There's only so much that our knowledge can take us to. But there are other things we will never know. We will never understand. We will never know why certain tragedies visit upon certain people. We will never understand why. And it is okay to learn to live with that inconclusion. Because if you do not learn to let go of the inconclusion, there are many things I can promise you in this world that really don't leave us with conclusions. We hope that life will be tied in nice little neat boxes. Sadly, that's not the reality of life. There are no neat boxes. We will do what we can. We will dot our I's and we will cross our T's, but we can only do so much because we are human, and therefore our capacity to do is limited. Let us commit ourselves to do that which we can, but let us not bang our heads against the wall for not having known what we needed to do, because we don't know everything. Number 5 is to learn to ask yourself, what narrative am I telling myself in this journey? What narrative am I believing in this journey? What narrative am I allowing myself to own in this journey? Because the narratives we tell ourselves are very powerful. If you're the person that has been diagnosed with a terminal disease, and you begin to tell yourself, here it is only death. And doctors will tell you, patients that have and proclaim a level of faith in whatever it is that they believe tend to have better results, even combined with medication. A patient that has faith and hope and has believed that this disease that they're suffering from is curable, is not unto death, will always turn out better results than a patient who gets results and decide, that's it, I am finished. Their body, somehow things just go downhill based on what we tell ourselves. And that is why we say, the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so he is. What narrative are you telling yourself in your lost journey? Oh, my marriage has come to an end. You know, my sisters came to an end. You know, my brothers came to an end. Even my third cousin, even my neighbor's father, sister, and when you begin to tell yourself that this thing that you're going through is your portion, then it will be. But if you begin to tell yourself, this marriage has come to an end, but it does not mean that marriage is a bad idea. It does not mean that marriage is a scam. You will still be able to relate with your friends who are married. You will still be able to see a happily married couple and be happy for them, even as you navigate your loss. And even as you know that, you know what? My narrative is I got married, my marriage did not work, but that doesn't mean that their marriage is a scam. So what narrative are you telling yourself in the lost journey? What narrative are you telling yourself in this season? Because the stories we tell ourselves are very powerful. The stories that we tell ourselves determine how we move. Finally, number 6, gratitude. Gratitude is one of those things when people go through loss, people tend to think that we are asking you to gloss over your loss. No, that's not what we are asking you to do, but we are asking you to find things to be grateful for. One of the things that I have learned, even in my own personal loss journeys, is that grumbling And finding things to complain about is so easy. You don't have to look far for them. They're just there, glaring at you. Things to complain about and things to grumble about in your lost journey are all over, left, right, and center. But gratitude is intentional. I remember many years sitting back with my own father lying in the mortuary. And one of the things that I remember about that incident in the mortuary is that in the midst of this extremely painful, life-changing season, there was a lady who was the mortuary attendant, and she was so kind. She was so gracious. She was so helpful, and I am eternally grateful for her because she made this very painful moment seem lighter. It didn't change the fact that my father was dead. It didn't change the fact that our lives were completely impacted forever, but she made it easier. Gratitude is not about ignoring the reality. Gratitude is not about lying to yourself. Gratitude is about intentionally beginning to see things that you can be grateful for. A friend of mine recently had an incident that entailed bringing in the policeman. And even though she was overwhelmed, even though it was none of those things that anyone ever prays for, she's always saying, I am grateful that the policemen that showed up were kind, they were helpful, and they were patient. Even in the midst of our deepest, darkest places, may we find things to be grateful for. And so I finished tonight's episode with a quote from Pablo Neruda. And this is what Pablo says: if nothing saves us from death, may love at least save us from life. Life can be hard. Life can be difficult. Life can seem to have more mountains and hills and valleys than flat seasons. But love can carry us through. And so the 6 things that will carry us through is love, identity, values, in conclusion, narrative that we are telling ourselves, and gratitude. And that's our show tonight. May the Lord bless you, may the Lord watch over you, and may the Lord keep you. Tuendelee kuongea.
When things fall apart,